Welcome to the Business Show, the place where business minds share their biggest highs, toughest lows, and everything in between. Join us as we dive into the journey of entrepreneurs, uncovering the stories, secrets, and strategies.
And explore how bright ideas become successful businesses. I'm Ahmed.
And I'm Tabisha. Today we're joined by Kareem, the founder of ACE Learning, a cutting-edge platform that's transforming the way students learn using artificial intelligence. We'll be asking you about your inspiration, the technology, and what it takes to build a platform like this. So Kareem, welcome to the show.
So Kareem, would you start by introducing yourself and telling us what ACE Learning is all about?
Absolutely. My name is Kareem Milkork, and I'm a student at year 13. I take physics, computer science, and math. And ACE Learning now is an AI-powered revision business that contains a whole lot of revolutionary ideas for studying. It contains things like notes, questions, and features that a lot of other sites just do not have. A lot of other sites are more costly, and their features are really basic, but this thing has like predictions for upcoming topics, specialized search features for all questions, and a whole lot of different modifications and export features you can use.
So what inspired you to launch ACE Learning? Was it your love for technology or wanting to help others study education?
Yeah, definitely. I think that played a major role in why I chose to make ACE Learning now. And as well as the fact that I viewed that the current resources we have available is just not enough. A lot of the resources, were locked by a huge paywall. They didn't have really anything good there. And essentially how it started off was, I believe, in year 11, where in biology we had like a predicted test, and that predicted test was so inaccurate. So then I decided to build my own program that could automatically determine the topics for the next test with a high degree of accuracy. And eventually that got refined and developed into ACE Learning now, just a whole site with more efficient studying.
I mean, that sounds amazing. But for a first-time user, how would you describe the learning experience on ACE Learning? How would you describe someone opening up the platform for the first time?
Yeah, I think it would be just a whole game changer, really, because when you open the website, you just have a whole array of tools that you can use, right? You can obviously select your subjects, save your progress, and just view all these condensed notes that things like, for example, an AQA book just don't have. The notes are essentially without jargon, without all the useless stuff that you need, and that's what makes it the best in my opinion.
So let's talk a bit about building your platform. You mentioned that ACE Learning was refined. So what was the first version of it like, and who was the first person to try it?
Yeah, so the first version of ACE Learning now is just started off with the prediction program, right? And this prediction program, I basically tested it after I did my business GCSE paper, and I found that it had topic accuracy of around 65% at the time, right? And I guess I was the first person to try it, but then I essentially let my friend test it out after he did the exam just to see how accurate it was, and it also achieved similar rates. Then that essentially just got refined. I've just been improving the algorithm more and more and just keeping on adding more features.
I mean, yeah, that sounds amazing. But how did you decide which features to prioritize, like adaptive quizzes, study plans, feedback? How did you all decide to incorporate that into your website? As you said, you refined it later on. What were the second steps you took into developing your platform?
That's a really great question. And I believe my answer for that would be, whenever I had a problem with something, I thought, how can I solve this? Whenever I saw students have a huge problem with this, how can I make it better for them? How can this experience be improved? Because, a lot of sites, they have features like, saving your progress, which of course ACE Learning now has, but what they don't have is good notes. They don't have a whole lot of questions, maybe 30. There's not enough practice and good tools, model answers. So yeah, every time I found a problem with something, I would think, okay, so I need to solve that big problem. and then I need to add all the basic features that everyone has.
So coming back to the features, were there any that you didn't work out the way you expected, or you had to get help to like refine those as well?
Yeah, definitely. So initially, how the question program works is it's not just like a whole PDF you can scroll to. It's automated. It automatically indexes the questions from tests essentially, and then it compiles it into a whole big data set. But the problem with that feature is it's so hard to extract the details for it. This test is going to have a whole different sequence for how this question is going to appear. This sub-question, maybe the marks are going to be wrong. Really, the whole big problem was data sets. But I think the most important problem that I've had, and I still currently sometimes face, is the design. The design is really just horrible to do, in my opinion, because what happens in the back of a programmer when they're coding a website is, they have to say, okay, this goes here, this goes on top of this animation has this effect. Yeah, it's been really troubling for that.
I mean, yeah, those sound like quite a few challenges, but how did you approach pricing and accessibility when deciding your platform? Was it trial and error, or was it something that you carefully planned? So, of course, you mentioned how you want it to be accessible for all students, but how do you essentially plan to make it accessible for a larger range of students?
Yeah, that's a great question, really. It's an amazing one. And how I determined pricing was what is fair, right? What is fair for a service like this? Currently, I'm still doing polling for a couple students, but I believe that I do have the final prices, and they'll be released when the site itself actually releases. And I take a look at the competitors' pricings. A lot of it, in my opinion, is unfair. It's just not accessible to every student, because why would you pay for a service that's essentially a clone of another service, but just has a different logo? Yeah. That's how I determined and refined the prices. I thought, what would be the appropriate price for this?
So I wanted to understand, what's the biggest difference between building an AI platform for education rather than the general AI purpose tools that we have?
So the AI platform for education, AI generally, it's a huge field.
Yeah.
There's, text generation models, multimodal models that can see images, audio. The AI part in ACE Learning Now is like AI question answering, AI question marking, building the model answers for that will then have to be double proofed by another AI. So essentially the AI part is really just text generation and the topic predictions. The beta version of the topic predictions, there are a whole lot of different versions I made for that.
Okay, so let's dive into the technology and operations of ACE Learning. What makes ACE Learning unique to tools like ChatGPT and other education websites? What makes it unique that a student would go to it and realize that this is ACE Learning and no other websites like it?
Yeah, that's a really good question that I've been inquired on before. And my answer to that is the fact that ChatGPT is a whole array of different sources combined into one huge model, right? And the thing is, it doesn't know what your specification is. It doesn't know what the example questions are. Therefore, it doesn't know what proper notes to give you. Because with things like ChatGPT, it's going to give you a whole lot of unnecessary details. The questions that, for example, the example questions are going to give you. We've had a lot of those exam questions generated, by our teachers via ChatGPT, and a lot of the time they've just been wrong, not relating to our specification, to the point where we've had to abandon those tasks and then start something else. So that's just my view on the problem of ChatGPT. It just gives you a whole lot of unnecessary details, overcomplication, and that's just the problem.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
So you did mention some of your challenges, but what in specific have you faced while training your AI accuracy, bias, or keeping the content up to date with it?
Yeah, so the AI was essentially, I'm not going to go into the whole details of, the huge model list, but how I refined the model was first was not AI. First, it was a simple topic prediction program that just found links between the questions via keywords. That was the one that achieved 65% accuracy. But then I essentially thought, okay, I'm getting into AI. I'm doing all these things. Let me try and make an AI version. And first you test the model, you test a couple questions, it's not good. Then you add more questions, you refine your model to an input, increase, the maximum length that the model can take in, and suddenly its accuracy just spirals up and its loss just goes down. And right now it's sitting at a rate of about 80% subtopic accuracy. And the good thing about it is it doesn't just tell you this might come in the test. It's not like that. It uses a function to determine how accurate is the AI really, like how confident is it in something. And usually when it's 99% confident, it is 99% confident.
That seems like a big game changer for education and even for students looking to write their final exams. So that's a really great platform.
Yeah, thank you.
So obviously many teachers have different views on AI, especially in terms of learning. Many teachers view it as a positive thing to, enhance our education. However, some teachers may have some negative views on it. So how would you see ACE Learning working alongside teachers in the future to make it more accessible to students? Because obviously students don't want to, be in class and sneaking around to use ACE Learning with their teacher there. How do you plan to overcome that obstacle into making sure it's more accessible?
Yeah, definitely. That's a big issue, right? And actually, ACE Learning now is not just about students, but it's about, as a more of a secondary target audience, it's about teachers, right? And as the founder of ACE Learning now, I would not want students to just use AI to just solve the questions that the teacher gives. And I believe that can be solved very easily by just teachers just telling everyone to switch off their devices or do this. It's a really great thing at home in study class, right? But once you're in class with the teacher, the teacher's the expert. They're the one that's gonna help you do that. And I just view that as the solution. Just make sure to monitor devices in that case. Of course, ACE Learning now can help, with questions and things like that. But when you have a task, like in class, then, you should do that task.
So do you run most of the operations yourself, or do you have a team behind working alongside with
No.
development or
It's
marketing?
completely done by me.
Okay.
The only thing I would say by other people is feedback. I've showcased some of the features to other people. I've received a lot of positive feedback, and I've also received a lot of things that I need to improve, and I have added those changes.
That sounds great. So going into the more business aspect of ACE Learning, how costly is it to run the AI infrastructure? How much has it cost you up to this point? Like you've said, you've done a lot of refining. Has there been any costs involved with that?
No, in terms of training AI, there hasn't been any costs because I don't have to rent some huge cloud GPU that would just keep on training. That would cause the model to overfit, which aka means just be bad.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't need to rent any cloud GPUs. So there's no really cost aspect in terms of the AI part. However, there are server costs, and I guess for that we'll just find along the way. Because right now I have all the calculations, how much is this going to cost me? And it's not too much in my opinion, right? But obviously there are better server plans, that can just make it faster and all. So we'll just see how fast the server will be, and if it is, slow, then obviously I will improve it.
So let's end off with your just how you measure your success, the number of people using your platforms, or how would you do that?
I measure my success based on, okay, so I'm using ACE Learning now. have I learned something from my program, right? From my business. When I go to the notes, am I learning something? When I go to the questions, am I learning something? The predictions, does that help? And the answer for me is absolutely yes. And so I just determined that based on its effectiveness for me and just how it's helped me overall.
Yeah, definitely sounds like a great platform for students to use. So thank you so much, Kareem, for sharing your journey. It's very inspiring to see how ACE Learning is progressing. Yeah.
And that's it for today's episode of the Business and Enterprise Pod. Don't forget to subscribe and share this with anyone who's curious about entrepreneurship.
Thanks for tuning in to the Business Show. Remember, every great business started with a single step and maybe a little inspiration along the way. Catch us next time where another entrepreneur reveals the highs and lows of their business journey.